What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. FantasyTeamAdvisors.com, bringing home the bacon NFL DFS video. We are breaking down week 1 of the NFL slate. We're going to look at the main slate. We're going to look at everything. So we're going to look at weather. And then I teased in our baseball video, but I have a player list. So this is my player pool. Now, this is the player pool I'm actually going to be playing this weekend. Again, stacks are a big thing. We know that everyone loves stacks. You've got to stack in NFL. You got to bring back stack as well. So we'll talk about that as well. We're going to go over everything, and hopefully you learn something. If you want to see, and I really don't know how these videos are going to go. We've never done a breakdown like this before. I know you guys are probably used to the MLB breakdowns, but we're going to bring you this here. So after this video, this is a work in progress. If you go back to the breakdowns we started with MLB at the beginning of the season, you'll see how much it's evolved. So please let me know what you would like to see in these videos, and I can see if I can get them going moving on into the future. So week 1, we started off with a bang on Thursday Night Football. If you're not on DraftKings or Fanduel, let me know. And I'm talking about like the sports book. So sports betting yesterday was awesome. So they had promos going. If you're a new user, you get a lot of great deals. So if you are not signed up on DraftKings, hit me up on our email, dfshelp1@gmail.com. And I will send you our referral link for either DraftKings Sportsbook or FanDuel Sportsbook. If you go in there and you deposit, they're going to match you up to 100%. So if you deposit at least $20, we're going to give you a free week pass or month pass to FantasyTeamAdvisors.com on top of everything else you get with it. So if you have questions, definitely let us know. I am going to hopefully be able to break down as much as humanly possible with looking at hopefully we were able to bring you a ton of information for an NFL, but with our sports betting on yesterday, we took the DraftKings had a promo where if you put a money line bet on, and if your team that you put the money line bet on went up by 7 at any time in the game, you automatically won your bet. So the easy money was I put $50 on Detroit money line because they were at that time, I think they were like plus 200 or right around plus 200, and I took that. And we took it, and we instantly won when they went down the field. Got a little bit nervous because they did punt. They were going to punt the first 2 possessions, and they fake punted. Then they went up 7. Then it wouldn't have mattered. They ended up winning overall anyway. So it was a fantastic day. We took down 30th place in the showdown on DraftKings. Put $75 in, won $150, so we doubled our money there, which is exactly what you're looking for. So your return on investment, whether or not it's DFS, whether or not it's sports betting, 50%. If you can double your money, anything double and more is exactly what we're looking for. So hopefully we're able to help you out. These are obviously built around DFS, but sports betting is in here. We're going to look at the factors that I look for when I'm building out my lineups. So how do I get to my player pool? Now, I would love to know how some of you get to your player pools, but we're going to go through everything. We're going to look at the weather. We're going to look at the player pools. We're going to look at everything. So buckle in. I do not know how long this video is going to be, and hopefully we're able to bring you this. But again, like I said, if we get through certain things and you want to see some more next week, let me know, and I will try to accommodate as much as humanly possible. But that being said, there's always going to be who do I stack, what lineups do I go with, what's my player pool, everything like that is what I kind of want to look at. So we do have a chalk. We have our NFL DFS chalk here. That's part of FTA Plus. We got our wide receiver quarterback matchups there. We've got our prop bets. We got our cheat sheet, which has our lineups in it. We got our Vegas odds. We got our player projections, which is also there as well. So that being said, depending on when you watch this video, the Vegas numbers probably have changed a little bit. So if you just want to look to see, and Vegas can be wrong, this is true, but largest to smallest, they had the Chiefs as the highest scoring team. We know that they didn't do that. They ended up losing. I think it's going to be a long year for Chiefs fans and Chiefs in general if they don't have a wide receiver 1. They just have like a bunch of wide receiver 3s and 4s. It's kind of crazy. Kadarius Toney, hands of steel, And by that, I mean couldn't catch a ball at all. But yeah, so we do have a matchup tool, which you can find under our Bacon Station, which I will show you real quick. If it'll load. It takes a long time to load. There's so much information on here that it does take a long time to load. So I ended up going through here for the week 1 or for Thursday night football, but we will go through, and you can't really see it here, but this is how you read it. So if you want to sort it by largest, that you could see that now these are stats from last year. So obviously when you're looking at that, defenses have changed. Like, we don't have anything else to go off of except for last year's stats right now. So the Lions gave up the most amount of fantasy points on DraftKings to quarterbacks, but the problem is quarterback's not going to be doing well if he doesn't have someone to throw it to. So Patrick Mahomes was out there. So Tennessee Titans gave up the second most here, as you can see, which would mean Derek Carr could be in a stack with his wide receiver or his pass catching back and stuff like that, so on and so forth. Justin Herbert against Miami Dolphins. Herbert's got Eckler who takes passes. He's got Mike Williams. He has Keenan Allen. He's got these players that he could have in store for a good game. So go through this. It's a ton of information. Normally I break it down, but I'm going to post it. It's already here. I'm going to post it on Reddit, and we're going to go from there. So definitely go check out the rankings video that we have. So we've ranked all of the players that we think are going to be in lineups for Sunday and Monday, and I'll link that at the bottom. But we will go through this. Let's take a look at the weather report real quick right now. We do have some rain, Texans at Ravens, but again, this is where, I think a lot of people are in the same mindset of, oh, well, if it's raining in MLB, I don't want anything to do with it. Do not be afraid to take fantasy football players in the rain. Take a step down a little bit for kicking, but the running the ball, throwing the ball, they play in rain. It's an outside game. So as long as there's no lightning, we should be good with this one. So really do like this one. The Ravens are supposed to be up huge in this one. So you could go with a Texan stack with CJ Stroud and wide receivers and running backs, because they should be down early in this game and have to throw the ball. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Bengals at Browns, a little bit of rain. We don't know. It's still going to be warm. 49ers at Steelers, 71% chance of rain. So it's kind of in that same system for the Ravens. A little bit of rain here. So we do see some rain moving in. But do not be deterred by this at all. Then we've got the Sunday night football game where we're going to have our showdown lineups in that one, and then our Monday night, we'll have that as well come Monday. So weather should not be a factor. We should be good to go, unless, of course, we get screwed over by seeing lightning. Lightning's going to be the one that we're a little bit weary on. So we can kind of look at this. I really don't know another place to find weather outside of here. So that's kind of what I was looking at. So that being said, we are here on DraftKings. That is our preferred book. I really just like DraftKings. I've had more success on DraftKings than FanDuel. I do know that people do like FanDuel. So we have it. I don't have the time to kind of go through both of them. If you would like that, maybe every so often I could switch it up, but we'll kind of see. So as of now, everything we're going over is over DraftKings. Like I said, I have my player pool here. This is pretty much the player pool I'm going to go with. Obviously, there's some one-offs if there's injuries that come through between now and Sunday morning where maybe someone else comes up that we could look at. So I'm going to put this right here so I can read it, but I'm going to go through each position. Now, the stipulations that I use to find the players and how I get my player pool. So looking at this, and it will be specified in different between positions. So with quarterbacks, what we're looking for, and this is historically, statistically accurate as of 2022. So obviously, we look at that. It didn't work out yesterday versus Kansas City, or for Kansas City, but again, you got to have wide receivers to be able to throw to. So in this, we want to focus and target home quarterbacks. So historically, home quarterbacks have better opportunities, and they win the game. They have better DFS or better fantasy production at home. Another one is the favored. Are they the favored team? So if they're at home, quarterback and favored, it's fantastic. We're checking that. So these are what I call the bacon eaters. So we love bacon here at fantasyteamadvisors.com, but these are the bacon eater players that we love. These are the guys that should be able to eat bacon based on this criteria. So the other one, the total in the game. Obviously, the higher the total for Vegas, the more chance that you're going to have more points scored. That obviously normally hinges on quarterback play. Obviously, quarterback could get hurt. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but that is what we're going through here. QBR, so quarterback rating. Obviously, the higher the quarterback rating, the better the quarterback is. I think that's self-explanatory. Then kind of what I look at, and historically looking at quarterbacks that are less than 8,000. So luckily on the main slate, every single quarterback, I believe, is 8,000 or below. So that hits. Now it just depends. This is DraftKings anyway, the way DraftKings scoring goes and everything like that. That is kind of what we would expect. Sometimes you will see quarterbacks higher salaried, but this is week 1, so these came out weeks ago, a month ago. So that's kind of moving forward. Then we're looking at ownership percentage. So obviously you're probably playing tournaments, GPPs, whatever you want to call them, 3 max, 20 max. Some people play 150 lineups. So looking at this, you got to diversify as well. So ownership percentages is huge, which we will have ownership percentages on the website. I don't have it built out yet, I don't believe. No, I don't. I have the page out there, but I have not created the chart yet. So we're going to be creating that. That's going to be a moving thing all season. Hopefully we can get that out there. So it is a little bit easier to kind of predict the ownership percentages in NFL than it is for NBA or MLB. So those are the bacon eater categories. So home quarterback, favored quarterback, total in the game, quarterback rating, under 8K on DraftKings, and ownership percentages. So that being said, let's dig into the player pool and who do we like. So number 1 is Joe Burrow. Looks like he's going to be playing the game. Just signed a huge extension. He's the highest paid quarterback of all time right now. We're looking at his matchup. So he played. So this is kind of why I like Fanduel a little bit, or DraftKings more than Fanduel. You can see here. Obviously, this is the matchup here. So Cleveland going up against Cleveland. They rank 5th against passing defense. They are the 25th against the rushing. So that obviously means we're looking at this. This is through, and this is part of the matchup tool. So if you have the bacon station here, you can see that overall Cleveland was here. They were the second best against quarterback last year, but don't let that deter you. Again, that was last year. So he's checking all of the bacon stats that I would love here. So looking at his matchup, this is last year, obviously. Going through here, you can see that he was averaging 23.1 fantasy points per game. He had a 99 rating, had almost 5,200 yards with 39 touchdowns and 14 interceptions in that one. So that is kind of what we're looking at. He is on the road. So on the road, you could see 11 games last year. He had a 67.6 completion percentage, almost 3,000 yards. He had 25 touchdowns to 9 interceptions on the road. So again, interceptions, like that you might be able to see kind of what he was averaging. But on the road last year, he was averaging 22.7 fantasy points per game, which is just under his 23.1 fantasy points per game overall. So I really love this matchup here. He's home favored. He's on the road, which, they're not going to check every single box because that's kind of hard to do. But he's a favored quarterback. The total in this game right now is Where's it at? Why am I not finding it? Right here. We're looking at 47.5. And if you want to go over unders, you can go through here. This one's out. So they're the second highest over under for the main slate. He's got a good total, a good quarterback rating. He's under 8K. We are looking at about 10% owned on him. So I think he is going to be a popular pick, but I think you need to get him in there just a little bit. So as long as he's healthy, he's good to go. Obviously, we want to look at when you use a quarterback, you don't want to throw out a naked quarterback out there. You want to throw him out there with his wide receivers. So obviously, Jamar Chase is going to be very expensive. But if we go through this list, we have these quarterbacks, and then if they match up with their running backs and wide receivers, that's a good stack. So you want to look at least Jamar Chase here. Looking through here, you want to stack against with him. So you're looking at a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and then if you want to get a little bit lower, it's a T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd. It really just depends on what's going through. As long as they're healthy, it's week 1, everything should be in store. Then you could go down to like an Irwin, but a number 4 wide receiver just depends. You got to get a little bit crazy. But then when I say you stack and you come back around, that means if they think this is going to be the second highest scoring game on the slate, you've got to have some exposure to Cleveland wide receivers. Now, Amari Cooper is going for, I believe, back-to-back 1,000 yards, and I think that would make him the first Cleveland wide receiver to do that. You would look at him at 5,800. So just the difference between Chase and Cooper is, like 3,000. Come back with Donovan Peoples-Jones or Elijah Moore. You want to bring it back with a stack. So if you're going to go like a Burrow, Chase, Higgins, you want to bring it back with like a Cooper, DPJ, or Cooper, Elijah Moore, or something like that. You got to bring it back because if Vegas thinks it's going to be a high-scoring game, historically when they have high-scoring games, you do have a stack, and then you stack that same exact game on the other side of that. So really looking at Joe Burrow here, really looking at a stack of some sort of Cincinnati wide receiver, Joe Mixon running back situation there. Next one would be, let's go, Justin Herbert. I love Justin Herbert this week against Miami. Miami ranked 30th against quarterbacks last year. Again, that's last year. We're looking at his stats from there. He had 5,000 yards. He had 92.7 quarterback rating there, 26 touchdowns, which seems kind of low with touchdowns for him, to 10 interceptions. So we're looking at this game logs. 16, 18, 18. I mean, you're looking at 7,000, 6,000. He is 6,900, so he's marking off the home quarterback, the favored quarterback, the total. He's marked every single bacon stat that we need here. We're looking at about 8% owned out of him. So while if you want to get that 2% there, you can stack a Justin Herbert against Miami. And then we've got to bring it back. We've got to look at the wide receivers here. So Keenan Allen, when he's healthy, he's dominant. Problem is he does get hurt. So let's take advantage of him while he's healthy. He's 7,300. He's going to be there. As you can see, he had a down game against Jacksonville, a good game against Denver there. Looking to see if he played Miami last year. 21.2 fantasy points at 6,600 in Week 14. It's exactly the kind of game we need out of him. So I am definitely going to be stacking Herbert with Allen. Then if you want to get lower because you don't want to spend up to 7,300, Mike Williams would be an option. Let's see how he did against Miami last year. Even better, 26.6 at 5,700. That's the exact price he is right now. So if you're one to make different stacks, definitely make sure you've got Herbert, make sure you've got Allen in some, or bring it back and have Mike Williams if you want to save 5,700. You're saving almost 2,000 there. Then you got Quentin Johnson here, game logs, obviously never played, being a rookie. He's coming in. You can see that maybe, depends on what he is. We don't know his scheme, but 4,400 in a stack, you're gonna save a ton there. So Quentin Johnson would be one. Josh Palmer's another one we used last year. Game logs against Miami, 9.3, not enough at 5,400. So while you could look at this, I think the number one's going to be Allen, 2 would be Williams, and then Quentin Johnson would be wide receiver 3 going into this game. Next one is Lamar Jackson, the highest priced quarterback on the slate. Now, Odell Beckham Jr. is questionable right now with a foot injury or something. I mean, not surprising. He has feet problem because he has I believe he tore both ACLs. But looking at this, averaging, I mean, he's not throwing a ton. We know that he's more of a mobile running back quarterback type. He's not thrown for 5,000 like the first two that we talked about. You've got a 91.1 QBR there. Did not have a good game his last game. So if you remember, he did not play a ton of games last year. He was hurt or whatever before he signed an extension. His last time he played was week 13 against Denver, where he ended up getting hurt in there and only completed 3 of 4 attempts there. So not a ton. At his price, he is $8,000. We are looking against Houston, which he did not play last year. And if you look, the Ravens are supposed to be. Where are the Ravens? Let's go team total here. Ravens are the second highest on here, 25.88 with a 45 over under. So Vegas is expecting the Ravens to go up big on the Texans. So we could look at that. We know that he is expensive, but we are looking at a good quarterback who can get a ton on the ground. So as you can see, kind of rushing here in these weeks. He had 89 yards that week, 31, 82, 43. So you can see he does, obviously, if he's not going to throw the ball, he is going to rush there. So taking a look at this game, and we can look at, and again, there is rain, so possibility. So if you want to put down a little bit on the passing and look up on the running, you got Lamar Jackson here. We got the wide receivers. I'd go with Rashad Bateman. Zay Flowers is going to be, I think Zay Flowers might be a sneaky option. Devin Duvernay is a punt returner, or he was last year, which gets you points. Game logs here, you can see it's very up and down though for him. He last played week 15. Trying to see if he played Houston last year. They did not. So looking at this, probably looking at Rashad Bateman though. In this matchup here against Houston, they're not good against the wide receivers there. Up and down too. So this is one where Lamar Jackson is more of, you're not going to pass the ball a ton, but you could definitely see him running a little bit more. Could be in store for a good game with running. So it just depends. Obviously with Mark Andrews as well, it would be my number. Mark Andrews is like Travis Kelce. He is more of a big wide receiver who gets the ball a ton. So if you are stacking there, he's questionable. I think he should be. I'm assuming he's good to go in this matchup. Game logs we can see there. He was 5,200 at 22. He's 6,200 here. I don't foresee him having a bad game here. As long as he's good to go, we are good to go with taking him. So Lamar Jackson is our number 3. Number 4 it would have surprised you last year, but let's look. Geno Smith. He's 6,100 going up against the Rams. The Rams defense has been decimated past couple of years. It's Aaron Donald and then some other guys. And then we've got Geno Smith coming in. They don't have Cooper Kupp. So now Geno Smith comes into a banged up Rams team, which he could be in store for a good game. He faced them week 18 last year, 15.62 at 6,000. And then he faced him at the Rams in week 13, 27.98 fantasy points out of him. Love me some Geno Smith here. Depends on the wide receiver you look at. So again, a better passer rating than the 3 that we just talked about. Had a tremendous game. Now, will he regress? Maybe a little bit, but if not, let's take advantage of it early and often. 32 touchdowns, only 12 interceptions last year. 4,500 yards through the air. What does that mean for us? That means we need to find who to take and stack with. Now, wide receivers, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and then we've got Smith. I don't know how to say his last name, so I'm not going to. But he is a rookie. He's coming in. He's 4,900. This could be in store. You've got DK Metcalf here if you're stacking here. Game logs, had a massive game against San Francisco in week 19, 38.6. Against the Rams, he didn't really do much there at 7. And then against the Rams, again, 29.7. So had really good games to to he cemented himself in week 19. And then you can see against the Rams, he had one of 2 games that were really good last year. So taking him, he is 7,000. That is kind of what I'd look at here. The Rams ranked 22nd against the wide receiver last year. Those are some good numbers for the wide receivers. Then you got Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett is getting up there in age. I think they said he's 34. No, maybe. I can't remember how old he is. Matchup-wise, we're looking at this. 15.4 against the Rams at home, and then on the road, 30.8. So for whatever reason, he did really well against them one game, just like DK Metcalf. So depends on which guy you want to stack there. Then you've got the rookie we don't know anything of, and then I probably wouldn't go any lower on the guys there. So these would be the top 3 wide receivers that I would look at with stacking Geno Smith in this game. The next one I like is Jalen Hurts. Love Jalen Hurts this week. 7,800. Looking at this, we can see that if you look here, New England ranks 20th overall against quarterbacks last year. He's healthy. He's got the matchups there. He can run as well. We know they were in the Super Bowl. 45.16 fantasy points in the Super Bowl, and they lost. He had 3 touchdowns. 3 rushing touchdowns in the Super Bowl, and they still lost the game. We know he can run. He had 3 straight games with touchdowns last year to end the year. He had 3 against the Bears himself. 3 is the magic number there. So if we look at this, trying to see, did he face New England last year? Did not face New England last year, but we know what he can bring to the table. Then you stack. This team is stacked. They're going to be making a run for the Super Bowl yet again. I would definitely be looking at A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. I mean, we can look at these numbers real quick and kind of see who we might look at here. Philly-wise, wide receiver, A.J. Brown, didn't face New England last year, but you can see that. And people didn't know how it would be with bringing A.J. Brown into here and then looking at Devonta here as well. So there's just a lot of options. Quez Watkins is a cheaper option at 3,400. Game logs, didn't do anything in the Super Bowl, really kind of sucked. If you want to be a little bit contrarian, a Quez Watkins in there, I don't mind. But again, it's pretty much Brown and Smith here. We look at Smith in the Super Bowl, 20 fantasy points. Obviously got the loss, but 20 fantasy points there. We know what we're getting out of him. So 7,200 out of him if you want to save a little bit instead of Brown. I do have a ton in my season-long league. I have a ton of Jalen, Smith, and Dallas Goedert as a stack. So that's another one. Dallas Goedert is an amazing tight end, 5,000 there. Game logs, okay game against Kansas City, but at his price, that's perfect. A little bit down here, and then 16. We can kind of see here. Going into the game, fully healthy, I'm looking at a fantastic game here. We're looking at Philly here. Where is the team? So Eagles projected 23.81 here, 46.5 over under. I'm okay with this one. I think it's going to be an exciting game. I think we'll have some great expectations there. And if you take a look here, kind of looking through last year, that puts Jalen Hurts kind of up towards the upper quarter here, as New England gave up an average of 308.5 DK points total. They were giving up an average of 18.1 last year to the quarterback position. So that is kind of how to use the matchup tool as well. And that's kind of what we're going to go through in this as well. So the next quarterback I'm looking at is Kirk Cousins. We love us some Kirk. If anyone watched Quarterback on Netflix, you know he's a good dude, doesn't cuss. Kind of annoying that he doesn't cuss. I don't know why. It's annoying to me. Game logs, he's facing Tampa Bay. He's facing a Tom Brady-less Tampa Bay, a post-Brady Tampa Bay team. Defense, offense does not matter. Trying to look to see if they played at all last year. They did not play at all last year. 4,800 yards, 93.7 rating, 31 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I don't think you can go away from a Kirk Cousins at 6,300, especially if you think they're going to be down at all. And you can kind of see that Kirk Cousins on the list here is kind of right below Jalen Hurts as well. Tampa Bay was giving up 17.2 fantasy points per game to the quarterback position last year. 17.2 is the number. Then you look at Kirk Cousins, he was averaging 19.1. So he's averaging more than what they were giving up last year, which is kind of cut in the middle there. So who do we stack here? I think you kind of know. It's obviously Justin Jefferson, number one. He's the number one wide receiver last year. He's vying for that, same as well. He was averaging 22.8 fantasy points per game last year. 8,800 though. He is expensive. He is very expensive. Did not have a good game against the Giants. He had 3 bad games, but then you can see the Giants, Indy, 30 plus points here, and that he's cheaper than what he was there. So we're looking at Justin Jefferson there, and then obviously we've got Jordan Addison here, rookie, 5,100. You've got KJ Osborne that, he's been pretty good for his price. He's a cheaper option at 4,300. Obviously, Minnesota lost Adam Thielen, so he's gone. So that puts in Addison, that puts in Osborne. Those would probably be the ones that's the lowest I would go there with a stack with wide receivers. Next one is Russell Wilson. Is he going to cook? Let's ride. What are we going to get out of him? I love how there was a report that Sean Payton came out, basically told Russell Wilson, stop doing your stupid foundation right now. Focus on football because last year you sucked ass. Now, do you want to suck it again or do you want to continue and ride? So I think that's going to haunt him for the entirety of the rest of his life, even outside of football. But we can look at this. Russell Wilson at 5,900 feels gross. Just start the season last year. You can see 6,500 he started in week 1. 72, 71, 67. Then you can see a downtrend because he was so bad last year. There is no way he is as bad as he was last year. I'm looking at Russell Wilson. The problem is, if he's not running the ball like we've seen him a few years back, the wide receivers that he's going to be working with in this one, a little iffy. There is some rain, but looking at the wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy is questionable. So he did hurt his hamstring. Obviously, if he's good to go, we're good to go. Coming off a really good game against the Chargers. The problem is he's very injury prone. We know that. Denver faces the Raiders, I believe, twice a year. 15.3 at 5,500 is perfect in week 4 last year. And then, did he only? Oh, because he was injured last year when they played him a second time. So, that being said, he has historically had success against them. So he would be one I'd look at. Cortland Sutton, obviously at 5,200. I'd probably feel more confident about Sutton going with Russell Wilson than I do with Jeudy, because Judy's just injury prone. Game logs, kind of looking at Las Vegas, week 11, 13 fantasy points. And then week 4, he had 16.2 at 6,400. Now he's 5,200. Cheap option for me. Kind of like in a Sutton, Russell Wilson package there. Tim Patrick's out. Hamler's out. You got Philip Dorsett at 3,000. Faced Las Vegas last year, 12.5 at 3,000. He would be a cheap option, a very cheap option for you if you want to stack, but that is a complete tournament play for me there. Russell Wilson comes in. He actually has a really good matchup. The Raiders were giving up an average of 19.5 fantasy points per game on DraftKings and 18.9 on Fanduel. So this is why I think if we don't go over on DraftKings on these videos, you could use this matchup tool here and kind of see what we like on Fanduel as well. Then we look at Deshaun Watson. What are we going to get out of Deshaun Watson? Who knows? To be completely honest, who knows what we're going to get out of Watson? He's 6,000 going up against Cincy. They think Cincy's going to be up big, so then you can bring back, again, like I said, just Deshaun Watson. Obviously, we know his history. He didn't play much last year. Did play week 14 against Cincy, put up 17.34, so more than his average last year. Again, that was his second start of the year after sitting out, so we know that he was a little bit rusty coming in at home. So Deshaun Watson's at home. He's not favored. The only bacon that he eats in this one is he's a home quarterback, and he's under 8K, and he's going to be about 5 to 6% owned. That is what we look at. So like we've already talked about the bringing it back with the wide receivers, Cooper, DPJ, Elijah Moore, Tillman here. Yeah, cheap. He's going to be cheap at 3,200, but I'd probably stick to these three with bringing it back. So there you go. Those are the quarterbacks and the wide receivers that we would look at. So we're going to look at the running back situation now. Now, the ones that stick out to us, these are the ones that I'd be looking at. So Austin Eckler, we usually, so with running backs, you look at a different situation. So obviously a favored quarterback at home is different. On running backs, the bacon categories that we look at, a home, favored, you want to look for at least 24 points in the game. So give me 1 second. So before I guess we go to the running backs, I kind of just want to say that is not all encompassing on quarterbacks. So there's still, I do love Justin Fields. I think he's going to run the ball. He's in consideration for MVP early betting odds, which is weird. I mean, he's in a good spot. Tua is in a good spot if the Chargers go up big to throw the ball. He's got options there. These are not the only ones I'm going with. I just want to bring that to your attention. And Anthony Richardson, we don't know what we're going to expect out of him. He's another one where we don't have a ton of quarterback situations there where he's the starter. The wide receivers, they're iffy. We'll put it that way. Other ones would be the way they think Baltimore's going to score. CJ Stroud's got to throw the ball up a ton. He's a cheap option at 5,400. I would look at him. Derek Carr, actually, if you look at here, has the number one matchup of all quarterbacks as of the stats of last year, where Tennessee Titans were giving up an average of 21.5 DraftKings fantasy points per game there. But if you want to go through, you can sort it. You can kind of see that's what we're expecting there. So don't just go with the player pool that I have there and that's it. But that is definitely one that I am looking at. And that is one that there are other options out there. But we're looking at the whole picture and breaking it down as much as we can. So moving on to running backs, you want to look at the running backs that specifically for DraftKings, ones that you love to pass catch. So obviously Austin Eckler's the top of the list for me with as much receiving as he actually gets, and we're going to look at that. So you've got that. Red zone usage, which you want to find the running backs that are using the red zone the most. You don't want to get vultured, which is possible. But Eckler he's going to be high owned. We're looking at him. So Austin Eckler just at the top. Game logs, he's facing Miami. He faced them last year, week 14. 24.4 fantasy points there. Had 21 yards. Miami. Had 8 receptions on 8 targets for 59 yards. So that's what you're expecting. You're 50, 60 yards out of him, which is perfect. So we're looking at Austin Eckler. I absolutely love him in this matchup here. We can move on to the running back position on the matchup tool. If it'll load. Then again, like I said, we did this all here. So if you want to sort it by this, you can kind of see we've got the top 2 or 3 running backs, depending if it's a committee or how we're looking at here. Miami Dolphins last year gave up an average of 22.4 fantasy points per game against the running back position. So I do love Austin Eckler, number 1. I think Joe Mixon in this game, I think, is going to be in store for a good game. Cleveland was 27th against the run last year, 6,800. Game logs did not have a good game in the Super Bowl. Just didn't utilize him much. Targets was only 15 yards on 3 targets. He only rushed 8 times in that Super Bowl. Or not Super Bowl, but in the playoffs, sorry. Against Buffalo, who's supposed to have a really good run defense with 23.3. Kind of looking at this, did he play Cleveland last year? In week 14, he had 12.6, which is kind of not enough. In week 8, he had 12.9. So I think he's going to be more involved in the passing game this year in this game. So I do like him there. Another one is Kenneth Walker Jr., or Kenneth Walker the third. He is questionable right now. So he has a groin injury. This is another one where it's going to be questionable. He's been pretty much on this groin the entire preseason. It hampered him a little bit, but I do see him playing in this game. And looking at this, looking against the Rams, had 16.4 in week 18, and then he had 3.6 in week. I only went 3 rush attempts, so didn't play in that much. And again, he's injured off and on, so that would bring Charbonnet. So if he is out, Charbonnet is in here, and he would be a cheap option at 4,800 if for some reason that Kenneth Walker is out in this one. Another one would be Bijan. We have no information on Bijan. Obviously, we don't know. He's a rookie. He's 8,000 for a rookie. Might be a little high for my liking. This is one I might kind of... I don't know. I don't know what we're looking at here. So, Bijan Robinson at 8,000. I might be off of him a little bit just due to his price. He is very, very expensive. This is another one. Alexander Madison. He's checking off a ton of the bacons. But, again, we've never seen him in this role. He's the RB1. He is the workhorse RB. And Ty Chandler and Myles Gaskin are the only ones behind him in this game. I don't know. We've never seen him before. He's 6,500. He's never been focus of RB1 in this. We know that Dalvin Cook was. So looking at this, Tampa Bay did not face them last year. He averaged... So these numbers are going to be skewed because he only had 283 yards because he was not the RB1. So at 6,500, maybe that's too rich for your blood, but he's checking off some of the boxes that I look for. Another one is J.K. Dobbins, and if you look at this, J.K. Dobbins is the number one. Houston gave up an average of 33 fantasy points per game on DraftKings to the opposing running backs last year. So we look at J.K. Dobbins. We know that his injury history, and we know that he's 6,600. As you can see, dead last against the run there. 6,600, I think I would definitely look at him rather than Bijan. Game logs against Houston last year. Did not face them. Up and down with injury, we know this. But his last game, 5,700, 20.5 fantasy points. This is the most expensive he was last year at all. But I'm still looking at him. I think he's the RB1 here. I think we're in store for another one. But if you want to go Gus Edwards, you think Gus Edwards is going to steal some spotlight at 4,500. He could, but if you look at these numbers, he didn't really do much last year at all. So I think J.K. Dobbins is the play to go in this one. Another one, this one's a little bit Ramondre Stevenson. We know Zeke is there. A good game against Buffalo. Kind of a couple stinkers here. He won me this week single-handedly at 27.8. He's involved in the passing as well a little bit in the red zone, and he fits that under 8K mold here for running back. So I do like him against Philly. It just will depend. If Philly goes up big, they might abandon the run and go for the pass. But if he's involved in the passing, makes me feel a little bit more confident with him. Josh Jacobs is another one. It just really depends on if he's going to get in there and he's going to have a full workload because, he didn't practice until the end of August. So that's the only thing that I'm a little bit weary on, but we know that Josh Jacobs, when he's healthy, when he's good to go, he's really good to go. Facing Denver last year, faced him on week 11, had 22 fantasy points at 7,500, and then faced Denver back on week 4, had 37.5. So he's had Denver's number in the past. As long as he gets in there and he's got a full workload and he's not going to be limited by anything and he's not going to be eased into it, Josh Jacobs could win you this week. Could win you $1 million. Another one is McCaffrey. Now, this is the problem. He is very expensive. We do know that we know what we're getting out of him. As long as he stays healthy, he's fantastic. We see against Philly in that game that they ended up getting dominated because of the quarterback situation. Still had 20.6 here. Looking at this, going up against Pittsburgh, did he play them last year at all? He did not. Obviously, he got traded. But we look at this. I would look at McCaffrey. He is 8,700 though, so he is kind of expensive. If I'm paying up, I feel way better about Eckler at 8,400 than I do McCaffrey at 8,700. Derrick Henry's another big name here, going up against New Orleans. You can kind of see that. What am I missing? Did I overlook it? Kind of just looking. The Saints last year were 11th overall against the running backs. We know Derrick Henry, though. 7,800. A little bit lower here, but then you had these big games here. Looking at this, did he face New Orleans at all last year? He did not. Still at 7,800. At that price, I kind of think I like Josh Jacobs a little bit more. And then maybe even Bijan a little bit more. Because, again, if Derrick Henry is double or triple teamed in the box, it's not going to go his way this week. And at that price of 7,800, this is the difference. So casual DFS players are going to chase the Derrick Henry because they know how good he is. Just depends on what Derrick Henry we get. There's just other value out there in these matchups that I do like. Another one is Travis Etienne Jr. at 6,900. Looking at this, they ranked Indy ranked 25th last year against the run. We can kind of look here. He faced him in week 6, 12.8 at 5,000. Then he faced him week 2, 8.3. So he hasn't had a ton here, but he is hitting the. He's more of a tournament option here. A tournament only. I would not trust him in cash. Going up against Indy's defense there. He's 6,900. He's a little bit pricey for my like, but I'll have him in my player pool. This one is more of a contrarian option, but Akers here. Looking at Akers at 6,200. Seattle did give up. Were really bad against the run last year. 30th against the run. Game logs, Akers, we know his injury history. We know that. Going against Seattle, he faced them the last game he had last year. 18.8, which is perfect. Then we look. He faced him in week 13, 19 fantasy points. Had success. Had success there. 6,200. If you look at that price range there, at 6,200 for running backs, you can see I like him better than Najee Harris. Aaron Jones, we just don't know. Aaron Jones is the next one on my list. The problem is we know that A.J. Dillon is here. And there's kind of notes that A.J. Dillon might supplant him for number 1 this season. We just don't know what we're going to get out of a Jordan Love offense here. Game logs, he's been vultured a lot. 6,300 I'm okay with. Usually, he's like 71, 7,300. I want to say he's very expensive last year. So take advantage of this at 6,300. Last year, week 2 against Chicago, 35 fantasy points against them. Again, that was Aaron Rodgers. That was not Jordan Love at the helm. And then they faced them again week 13, had 10 fantasy points. So really just depends if it's going to be him or A.J. Dillon. So A.J. Dillon. So we're looking at Aaron Jones at 6,300. And then A.J. Dillon is 5,200, who could come in here. The problem is we don't know what we're going to get out of him. Week 13 against Chicago, 20.9 fantasy points. Week 2 against Chicago, 7.7. So don't be screwed over by Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon like a lot of people have this year. And then the last one is Nick Chubb. I do like Nick Chubb here. It just depends on what we're going to get out of Nick Chubb. Looking at this last year against Cleveland, or against Cincy in week 8, he had 28.4. And now Kareem Hunt is gone. We know this. There is no Kareem Hunt. There is no, it's Nick Chubb, and that's kind of what we've expected and what we probably looked for when you built out your lineups last year. But Kareem Hunt is gone. Now we are back. And then at Cincy week 14, he had 8.4. So I really like Nick Chubb more this year because there is no Kareem Hunt to steal. So I'm surprised Kareem Hunt has not been in. He's not signed yet. And obviously, we kind of already touched on the wide receivers that we like this week. It's just we'll kind of go in the order of. So if you are stacking the quarterbacks, or you're taking the quarterbacks, you want to stack their wide receivers with them. The ones that mark the boxes that I love: Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Chris Godwin that we didn't really talk about. And these are ones you don't have to stack. So obviously you can't stack every wide receiver with their quarterback because you can only have one quarterback in a game. You can have 3 to 4 wide receivers on a team. So I would look at, like I said, Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Chris Godwin. Christian Kirk could be a cheaper option. Mike Williams is a cheaper option. Jamar Chase I like. Devontae Adams, a stud. We know Devontae Adams. T. Higgins is part of that stacking with Burrows in this game. Chris Olave. Now, there's a lot of people that have a bad taste in their mouth from Olave. So we look at him, he's 6,500, but Tennessee gave up the most amount of fantasy points to the opposing. So let's look at that real quick. As you can see, this is our matchup tool. It is here. It is for you guys to look at. Tennessee gave up an average of 41.7 fantasy points per game on DraftKings and 33.2 on Fanduel last year to the opposing wide receivers. That brings Olave, Michael Thomas, Rashid. So it really depends. Is Michael Thomas Olave last year though did have 1,000 yards. Game logs though, 16 is good, but 8, 8, 10, 11, like he ticky-tacky in most of these games. Overall, 1,000 yards is obviously good. Only 4 touchdowns. That's kind of what we're looking at. He's 6,500. Then Thomas, who was a stud back in the day, is only 5,100. Now, they say he's looking like his old self. Whether or not, that's just propaganda. We don't know. Game logs, we know that he played in 3 weeks last year and then was out. He started off the year really well, 22.7, 18.5, but that was it. 5,100 for Michael Thomas in a matchup where Tennessee gave up the most amount of fantasy points, and it's at home in a dome. Michael Thomas could be a sneaky option at 5,100 this week. And now this is another one. Christian Watson. Nope, that's Deshaun Watson. Christian Watson is questionable right now. He did not practice on Thursday, so this is something to look at. But again, this Packers wide receiver core, not the best. Let's just look real quick at their wide receivers, just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Questionable, out. There's not a ton. You've got Dobbs and Watson. If they're in, I'm okay with at their price. I do love Watson a little bit more, though. And then the last one is A.J. Brown. So we're looking at A.J. Brown in this one. He's towards the top here. It's him and Devonta Smith. So that is why I like looking at a Jalen Hurts Eagles stack with Devontae Brown and or A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. So you kind of look at this. The Eagles gave up an average of 35 or the Patriots gave up an average of 35.2 fantasy points per game on DraftKings last year. So that brings Brown, Smith, and Watkins for ones that I really like here. Then tight ends, we can just move on to tight ends real quick. It really depends. So usually, you don't want to get too cute with tight ends. Mark Andrews at 6,200 I'm looking at. You kind of want to look at about 7,000 and below normally. Now, Kelsey, obviously, when he's in, is expensive. But for the main slate here, everyone fits that criteria for under 7,000 on DraftKings. You want to look for a home, a favored. With tight ends, you want to look for targets. So targets are the big thing. Look at an average of about 7+ targets for tight ends to feel confident about paying up at whatever price you're paying up for. So the targets are a big thing. Red zone obviously is a big thing. You want to look for the Vegas spread. So if you can find a spread with under 7 as a spread, you can kind of see that the game might be close. The tight ends might be utilized a little bit more, especially in the red zone. So looking at this, David Njoku at 4,200 in this matchup. Love this one. I don't know why he's this cheap. Njoku here going up against Cincy. He had 18.7 in week 14. So that's the only time he played him because he was hurt the other time. So at 4,200, I love this price for him. I absolutely love that price for him. So I'm looking at Njoku here. You want to get a little bit cheaper. You got Gerald Everett at 4,300 in this game where it could be a shootout. I love Justin Herbert in this one. So I play over on Drafters as well, and it's the snake. So it's kind of like DFS, but it's snake draft. That they had the first snake draft before DraftKings and Fanduel did this. Love me some Gerald Everett. He's going up against Miami. Week 14 last year, 7.8. He's 4,300 in Miami here. 27th against them. So Njoku and Everett are very cheap, very good options in this one, especially in this matchup here where these two could be shootouts. Another one I like is Hawkinson. He's going to be very high owned though. TJ Hawkinson, he was hurt all preseason, then he got paid. We know that he's a really good tight end when he's healthy. 25.9 in his last game here, going up against Tampa Bay. He is the second highest priced at 5,900, but he's got a fantastic matchup there. So he's going to be higher owned if you want to get that lower leverage for tournaments. Njoku and Everett, I think Hawkinson is probably going to be more of a cash option. Tyler Higbee is another one because Cooper Kupp is out. Tyler Higbee could be in store for a good game here. Going up against the Rams last year, or up against Seattle last year, Week 18, 7.3. Cooper Kupp was in there. Week 13, 3.4. Again, when Cooper Kupp is out, it's when he usually shines. So Higbee at 4,800 is an option that I think will be lower owned just as well. Mark Andrews obviously is going to be the number one tight end. He's 6,200. He's in a matchup against Baltimore or against Houston where Baltimore's supposed to go up big early. So if they do go up big, that's the problem. Then they might not throw it to him. They might just run the ball, and Lamar might just run the ball and kind of not get the points that we need. So at 6,200, I think he's going to be very expensive. I might pivot off of him and go the lower owned, lower priced guys. Evan Ingram is another one at 4,700 against Indy. They rank 15th, so middle of the pack here against Indy. Not a ton. I mean, week 6, he had 9 fantasy points at 3,500, which is good. And then week 2, he had 11.6 at 3,600. So he is 4,700, but I think he will go lower owned there. Then we got Dalton Schultz coming in. He's now on Houston instead of Dallas. They should be. The game script says they're going to be behind early and often. Dalton Schultz could be that safety blanket for C.J. Stroud. Game long, we know that he is a dominant player when he's in there. And Baltimore did rank 8th against them, but they're going to have to toss the ball a ton, I feel. I think Dalton Schultz could be that security blanket. 10 yards here, 10 yards there could add up to a 100-yard game in no time if they are behind like everyone thinks they're going to be. The other one is Dallas Goedert. Already mentioned it. Looking at a big Philly stack this week. Goddard is in it. Smith is in it. A.J. Brown is in it. Jalen Hurts is in it. That's what I'm looking at. I don't really like the Eagles' run as much as last year, so I do think they're going to run the ball or throw the ball more, and that's what I'm looking at in this. And then defenses, it really just depends. Defense is normally a crapshoot. They're right around the same price. You can find that value here. For whatever reason, the Commanders are only 2,800. I think they're going up against Arizona that are probably looking to tank the entire year. I love the Commanders here. I don't know why they're 2,800. They're probably my number one defense. Going up against a team that's led by, I think it's going to be Josh Dobbs. We don't know yet. They won't tell us. And that's what's kind of iffy. It's kind of weird. So that's what I'm looking at. Those are the defenses. I mean, just depends on what you're going with. Go with your heart. Offensive rank, I mean, you can sort it by that. You could look at the Jags against Indy, but again, they just didn't have quarterback play last year with Matt Ryan. Ravens against Houston. Houston's supposed to be down big. They're 4,000, but I like the value here at 2,800 with the Commanders. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. That is the breakdown. If you are looking for more, definitely let us know. We will try to bring that to you next week and moving forward. Let me know what you liked and what you didn't, and we can go on from there. So that's what I've got in this video. If you have not already checked out the website, go check it out, fantasyteamadvisor.com. That's what I've got. Good luck this week, and as always, let's bring home the bacon. Peace!